So now moving on, we have Texas A&M. They're next in the conference at with a line set at 9.5. The big story there in the offseason is Haynes King and Zach Calzada, the quarterback battle there. I don't know. To me, it's not a huge difference as far as who wins this job. I don't believe that the 17-year starter they're replacing was all that great. Um, and we know Isaiah Spiller is a really good running back. Jalen Weidemeyer is one of the best tight ends in the country. Ainias Smith is a good proven receiver. Kenyon Green is a preseason first team All American at offensive line. I think he's moving to left tackle this year. He is their only returning offensive line starter, which is the concern for them, of course. We know Texas A&M's defense is going to be excellent. Does it matter to you who wins this quarterback job? What is the main thing that would keep them from winning 10 games this year?
I hope it's Haynes King. Just from I'm a neutral here. Don't really care either way. I hope it is Haynes King. Former Elite 11 guy, very talented kid. Hope it's him. He's a dual threat. Kind of still in that Kellen Monde mold of kind of the dual threat. You can kind of there's some continuity there. He played some last year, got a little bit of mop up duty, not much. Looked okay, but for sure talented. I think this is maybe the same case as what they had with CJ Stroud a little bit at Ohio State. He has won that job now, but CJ Stroud was kind of the guy that they wanted to win, the guy that the coaches wanted to win. I think Haynes King kind of the guy that the coaches want to win. They haven't announced it yet, but he is the heavy betting favorite. You can actually bet on this in Vegas. King is a favorite by a fairly good margin. As far as what's going to keep them, Jimbo, maybe. Like Jimbo might keep. I hate to say it, but no. They're clearly they've elevated themselves. Last year was a great year for them. The win versus Florida was a landmark win. You could kind of even feel it when it happened. That was a big win. They got blown out by Alabama, but who didn't? Everyone got blown out by Alabama last year. So very good team. You mentioned just like some of their guys, Weidemeyer, Ainias Smith, kid, super talented. Kellen Monde, I think it really comes down to how good you think Kellen Monde was. I think Kellen Monde was a pretty good quarterback. You may disagree. You mentioned he was there for 17 years. It was just short of that. It was 15 years, only 15 that he was there. I think he was pretty good. I'm not huge on A&M this year. I have them going under. I was torn on this one. I think the line's really good. I have them going just under. Just a few of their games that I think are just kind of just some tricky games is the game. They go at Florida, or sorry. They get Alabama at home, but I think the Arkansas game is going to be tricky for them. They have Arkansas. I think the Arkansas game is going to be kind of the one that trips them up and keeps them from getting to 10. So I have them going just under and prepared to be thoroughly embarrassed by this one, though.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a good team. And it does feel like they're a little bit kind of what Georgia has been the last several years, but just not quite as good, like a step below that. And I wonder if the offense can figure it out, because it just there's a dozen teams like this probably in college football where it feels like the defense is really good and the offense is efficient, but just like they haven't quite come into the 21st century. Jimbo likes to play really slow, and they've been an efficient offense. They haven't sucked.
I think a lot of how good you think A&M is going to be is kind of tied into with how good you think LSU is going to be this year. And with LSU, it's kind of because that's kind of like the battle for second in the West. First is decided, and then it's between A&M and LSU for who's second. And I'm not sure. Like I'm really torn. LSU, they could be 11-1, or they could be 7-5, and who knows? Like no one really has any idea which way they're going to go. The last game is going to be between it's at LSU. Between A&M and LSU, and it's in Baton Rouge. I think that'll be a bit of a benefit. I actually have that game going LSU's way, so therefore that's my under on A&M.
Yeah, it is interesting. Those are their only ranked opponents this year, Alabama and LSU, which almost made this harder for me. Here's an interesting thought, though. You mentioned Arkansas as a potential trip-up game. Do you know the score of the Ole Miss A&M game last year?
No, but it was surely in the 40s or 50s.
It did not happen. was canceled. And so, like, to me, that's the one I'm looking at. Because Ole Miss, we know they're going to put up points. They almost beat Alabama last year. It was just Alabama was also incredible at putting up points. I'm not sure A&M is that incredible at putting up points. If this gets into like a shootout, man, that could be an upset watch for me. And they're a better team than Ole Miss. Like if they played 10 times, I would expect them to beat them 7 times probably. But there are 3 losses there out of those 10, and we'll see which one of those actually happens in real life. And we should mention like DeMarvin Leal, one of the top defensive players in the country, really is there. All their secondary starters are back. This is a really good A&M team. I don't want to undersell them. However, I am with you. I'm on the under. I lean towards Alabama and LSU, and I think they'll lose one more game somewhere. And I don't know if that's Ole Miss or Arkansas. You mentioned you never know what's going to happen in the Egg Bowl. It does feel like Ole Miss started out a little better than Mississippi State last year with first-year head coaches. I do trust Ole Miss a little bit more, but did I? Why am I talking about the Egg Bowl? We're talking about Texas A&M. I'm sorry, I have Ole Miss on the mind. But A&M, I just don't know that I quite trust them to beat all the teams they're supposed to beat. So I'm slightly on the under. Is it a tough call for you, or is it pretty easy for you?
No, this one was very tough. Yeah, there is some tricky games in the West. I think there's going to be tricky teams, and I think the ones that we brought up are going to be kind of the ones that are really going to kind of have some or cause some turmoil maybe in the SEC West. I think it's going to be probably Arkansas. Auburn is always a wild card. Auburn's
Right.
always a wild card. So who knows with Auburn? And I think that there's so much unknown, I think, in the West because you have teams. Arkansas had a good year last year and had multiple SEC wins as they hadn't had for the last 2 years. So Arkansas is kind of a team on the rise, and you have Auburn with Auburn's. Who knows what Auburn's going to be, and they have a new head coach, and Bo Nix is he's old now. Bo Nix is old. We've seen him go from young, and now he's old. Is he going to finally be mature enough not to just make boneheaded plays? Brian Harsin that's going to be kind of his job at Auburn. So it could be like Ole Miss is with Lane Kiffin is going to try to beat you 45-42 every week. So LSU's kind of crazy too. The whole thing is very unsettling. Forecasting the SEC West is very difficult. And I have them going under only just, but very difficult call though.
Yeah.